Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for carving out a portion of your morning to be here. I need to jump off at 9:30 so I can get up to my Winooski Conservation District board meeting. But certainly if we don't conclude before then, you all can stay on for as long as necessary. But does anybody else have a time commitment?
Well,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess the Pooch does.
Sorry about that.
All right. Well, whoever that was. Great. Well, we'll just jump into it. If everybody, I think everybody knows each other, or at least is familiar with who's on the call, so we can dispense with introductions, if that's a correct assumption. So
Greg, I would recommend going around and doing introductions. I know we know each other, but one thing I realized with open meeting law is when people are joining remotely, they're supposed to introduce themselves at the start of the meeting. So
okay.
just
Yeah.
real quick though.
Yeah, open meeting law is a multi-splendored thing. So fortunately, we can take advantage of having an introduction. So Rick Hopkins, East Montpelier, currently chair of council and a member of the finance committee, supervisor with Winooski District.
I can go. I'm Kate Willard. I'm a supervisor from the White River NRCD and a member of the finance committee.
Bill Manor, I'm the chair of the Ottaquechee Conservation District, member of Finance Committee and alternate to NRCC, and also the VACD representative from our district.
Thanks, Bill. Richard?
Franklin County Supervisor, Chair, and whatever Bill's on, I'm on it too.
Yeah.
And I think that meets the requirement, but Claire Ireland, Administrator of Council, and I don't think we need to do the full round.
But Lena's here, Emily's here, Michelle is here. Thank you all. So yeah, I guess let's jump right into it. The October 2025 meeting minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I could second that.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Richard. Any discussion? Thank you though for those that had a hand in keeping track of everything that was said and done during that October meeting. Not hearing any questions or further comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting minutes are approved. Next up would be grant proposals, approvals, and updates.
So the first topic we have here is for the Ag CWIP application strategy. There's the Agency of Agriculture has released a funding opportunity for a new round of Ag CWIP. This is the Agriculture Clean Water Initiative Program. It's one of our largest funding sources, but we think we might want to shift our strategy. And so Emily and Michelle are here to talk about how we're going about that application.
Yeah, so the agency currently, council has an agreement which all of the districts are part of, and then VACD has its own agreement. Agency of Ag would like us to just do one master agreement. So Claire and I have discussed moving that to VACD for a few reasons. The first is that with all of the uncertainty on the federal level, VACD has been in a position of moving sort of our staff back and forth between state and federal funding, but also bringing in state funding from our Ag CWIP agreement to support district staff. And so that flexibility to be able to move people around is greater in a nonprofit than it is at council as a state agency, which has to comply with state rules around subgranting. So that's the main piece, the main reason. The other is that, of course, right now, for any time that Emily is the grant manager for that. I work with her on overseeing the Ag CWIP agreement. And so all of our time that's spent on that is currently, we are charging a 15% indirect rate to council on all of that. So I would rather not be charging. It's great for VACD's finances, but it would be better for, I think, conservation as a whole if we weren't doing that and we were instead actually using that 15% to do conservation work. So those are the two reasons. Plus, it'll streamline the accounting because it takes out one more grant that we're having to bill council for. So those are the reasons why we're proposing and want to make this change to move Ag CWIP to fully to VACD. So happy to.
And I'll just jump in to add a couple things. So functionally for council, what this would mean is that the staffing position that we currently build into our personnel agreement, Emily's position, would now be more directly supported by VACD. So our personnel agreement would reduce because that function is now going to VACD directly. And then we would still be doing all the same sub-agreements to districts. So districts would not be impacted by this. They'd still have the same opportunity for sub-agreements that would just be going through VACD rather than through council. And I think, the final thing to note is that council itself may, I would hope, and I think we're working on this, but we would have a sub-agreement from VACD. So VACD would make us an agreement to support the capacity development or capacity building work that we're doing with council. So essentially same players, just a little bit of a shuffle to make it more administratively efficient and streamlined.
And I happened to have a meeting with Nina Gage earlier this week, late last week, one or the other. The days blend together. And so I did mention this to Nina and that we would want to give council a sub grant, and she indicated that Agency of Ag would be completely on board with that. It also allows us, like right now, VACD's grant and council's grant largely overlap in the capacity building for districts work. So it's really unclear like who's supposed to do what because we both have deliverables in that area. So we can really, this would let us really clarify that as well, to be like, this is what VACD's doing, this is what council's doing in terms of supporting districts, to really draw some lines that will bring some clarity and make it easier for us to achieve that goals by making it clear who's responsible for them.
So those are the benefits, and part of the reason we're bringing this to the Finance Committee, it's a little bit of a weird strategy or situation. Our finance policy requires Finance Committee or board approval for parent agreement applications. But we've never been in a position where we've decided not to apply through council. So we're really bringing this to you for consideration. We'd like to get, I think, conceptual approval to go this route. And yeah, happy to answer questions.
Sure. I mean, I think it's not a secret that our district has expressed concern about in the past about involvement of VACD versus council. So I just would, I think it would be helpful to maybe talk to the White River District about what the proposal is and why it makes sense. Just I'm not really sure that I can represent it completely and accurately. I don't know, that would just be a question that I would have, or I guess a request. And I don't know, have there been conversations with the district managers about this sort of change in strategy, and if so, how have those conversations gone?
We've discussed it with the DM reps and they're both okay with it. I mean, Sarah asked about what this would mean for being able to have to continue to support Claire's work.
You mean the DM rep to VACD?
Yes,
Yeah.
but yeah, but they're also paid under this agreement, right? And there's Vermont Ag Water Quality Partnership money that's under this agreement, but council isn't a member of the partnership, VACD is. And so I think the other piece,
Yeah.
in addition to sort of the efficiency and the savings, is that we need, like, there's going to be a need for match for our NACD agreement. And so it's easier if we have those, have that funding directly with VACD. So it's just because we also hold the NACD agreement. So which makes sense because we're the association. It's coming from the National Association to the state association, and then also to the districts. And I don't anticipate that Jennifer will be happy about this, but none of the other, I've spoken to a few other district managers just in passing as I've been having conversations with them, and none of them, they were sort of like, from their perspective, for most of them, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They don't really make a distinction, and it's going to be the same people working on the grant as before.
I think and I'm just trying to remember, I don't think we did explicitly talk about this as part of our ongoing conversations with DM about the Ag CWIP application, but maybe we can bring that up in the next iteration of when we talk about the application with them. I also don't anticipate much pushback on that from most district managers. If it's helpful to talk to Jennifer specifically, happy to
I think it would
have
be,
that
and I think it would be
conversation.
helpful to talk to Jennifer and the full board. I just think, I mean, if it does make sense, and there's and the way you explain it, Michelle, I hear what you're saying, but I think specifically giving information to the White River District would help, maybe deflect a lot of angst that might carry through for a long time. Would be my suggestion. I don't know.
Yeah, we can arrange. We can arrange to do that. We can arrange to do that.
Okay, and having said that, we have a board meeting tomorrow, so I will give them. I will give an update, and I presume that probably Jennifer already knows about this proposal. I don't know if she does or not. She doesn't.
She knows about the Ag CWIP proposal in general,
But
not specifically moving it to VACD.
Yeah, she does not know about that. Well, she will know about it tomorrow. So
I can give her a call today as well and just tell her.
okay.
Yeah. Emily.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, while there might be some sticking points around moving this agreement to VACD, I think overall having one agreement will help in terms of like organizational transparency. I think some folks have been confused from the DM perspective in the past why there are 2 agreements, what's happening on the VACD side that's not included in the proposal that the districts are doing, et cetera. So I think that it also may add some clarity around that, where district managers and supervisors can feel like this is all under one agreement. We understand fully what we're doing. There's no separation of VACD over here doing something that the districts aren't aware of. So I think from that perspective as well, I anticipate that should actually be helpful.
I agree. And one of the challenges we've had with having 2 agreements has been a sense, I don't think this is actually true, but there's been a perception that VACD is in competition with the districts because there are these 2 separate agreements. So if we bring them under one agreement, it really just helps us to, again, transparently and more specifically talk about the allocations between entities. So, sorry.
So, excuse me, clarify this a little bit. Ag CWIP is now moving just to districts?
No, Richard, right now council holds an agreement under which all of the districts have a sub-agreement. So council is the primary grantee,
Okay,
and then all of the districts have sub-agreements. So in this, when we're shifting it, it would become VACD's agreement, and all of the agreements in council would have sub-agreements. So right now, council has its agreement with all the sub-grantees, and then VACD has a separate agreement that pays for part of the engineer that we hired to assist the South Zone, and pays for actually the almost the entirety of the conservation planner that we hired to support Addison County, because that district wasn't really in a position to be managing staff on its own. So in terms of capacity. So, and we couldn't leave our second largest ag county without some conservation support through the district. So through the districts. And so that's the main thing. And then we have funding for capacity building, both at VACD itself and at the districts, in our
it's still not
agreement.
clear. I know I'm a little slow.
That's okay.
Council
right
was
now-
on top of VACD previously, and now it's
No,
gonna be.
council and VACD each had an agreement. So there was a
Okay.
council agreement and a VACD agreement. So
Okay.
VACD's agreement was only for VACD, and council's agreement included the districts. So now we're saying one agreement, VACD will hold the agreement, and council and the districts will get funding through that agreement.
Okay,
This also lets, like when the shutdown happened, I had council and VACD had one agreement. There are some areas where we're falling short on where the districts are not meeting their deliverables. And I could have used VACD staff to bolster the deliverables in that agreement, because at the end of the day, it's one big pot of deliverables. Like, it gets allocated out amongst the districts, but at the end of the day, the agency cares that we meet them as a whole. So I could have put VACD staff in to assist with bolstering the deliverables in that agreement so that we could meet them. But right now, I can't do that because it's council's agreement and not VACD's. And I proposed doing that to the agency, and they were like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we could subcontract with council, and then we could have, our staff going out and doing some farm visits while they're laid off from NRCS, and get, bolster the deliverables in the council agreement. And agency said no. But if VACD holds the agreement, we can use VACD staff to support the districts and the district deliverables more flexibly.
okay.
Sorry, I forget about this hand raising thing. So Michelle, and that's because VACD was, for lack of a better word, insulated from the requirements of the government shutdown, and NRCC, because it's a state agency, was more.
So I was able to move our staff who work with NRCS to our VACD agreement to our VACD Ag CWIP agreement.
I see.
But I was like, I would really love to help out the districts and bolster the districts' deliverables where they're shy. We're going to end up about 9% short on one of our key deliverables right now. And
that's partly because that person who was supposed to be working on whatever the project was federally funded and couldn't work for a month and a half.
No. This is council and just the districts. So council and the districts have to do a certain number. They have deliverables under that agreement.
Yeah.
The deliverables, one of the key deliverables is farm visits. We're close to 10% short on our farm visits, which could result in the Agency of Ag saying, we're not going to pay you all the money because you haven't met all of your deliverables.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really close to the line on them being able to do that under their own policies. So I had staff who couldn't do work. So I was like, I could have, and they were actually out visiting farms. They were doing work for the state under VACD's agreement. But I couldn't have them do that work under council's agreement, whereas council the districts really need those farm visits to go up.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't raise the deliverables under the council agreement using VACD staff because we have two separate agreements. I tried, Agency of Ag said no. So I know that's it's a really complex, weird thing, but it means that VACD can't come in and support the deliverables in the district agreements in that overall agreement.
And
With our
that
staff.
shortfall really wasn't related to the government shutdown necessarily.
No,
then. Okay.
that was
All right,
related
that's-
to districts not meeting their targets or districts not properly reporting their visits.
I get it.
It's
Okay.
there. It's twofold. We've had both happen.
Is 10%
Yeah.
sort of the cutoff? Okay.
Yeah, so we need to be. They're like a variance of 10% is okay because this is a 4-year agreement. So
Yeah.
you know, there's been a lot of time for there to be turnover, for districts to fall short, and so it's been a real. We have 2 districts who have met their deliverables so far in this 4-year agreement, but we have some districts where we've had to adjust deliverables and we've had to adjust funding, and it would just be easier for VACD to support the districts if the Ag CWIP were a VACD agreement.
Okay. Thanks.
I know that's very convoluted, but
Well,
I'm
no,
happy.
it's really
Yeah.
important to understand, what's
Yeah.
going on. here.
No, and it is. It's a complicated relationship, and so this would simplify it and bring more transparency, as Claire said, or Emily may have said. I think. Yeah,
Emily.
Yeah, Michelle kind of said this, but just to bring some emphasis, one of the challenges for districts and meeting their deliverables is turnover. That's consistently a big hurdle. So, and it should be a little bit better moving forward, just in the fact that these are going to be 2-year agreements instead of 4-year agreements. But, someone will make a plan that's very reasonable, that they know that they can achieve, and then that person leaves, and then it takes 6 months to bring someone else on. And suddenly a district is rushing to onboard someone and meet their obligations. So I think having the ability to have VACD support some of those gaps so that conservation is still happening, and districts, are able to hire and recover. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want the agreement amount to be taken away, right? So if a district isn't meeting their deliverables and the agency says, okay, we need to take money away, and then suddenly they can't hire someone else, right? Or if we're looking at future agreements, the agency might be hesitant for giving a district as much money. We don't want that to happen, right? The idea is that we're supporting the districts, we're being able to, grow their capacity. So I think from my perspective, it just adds a little bit of cushion to the districts to be able to continue to grow their capacity through, turnover and things that we know are happening. So.
Claire.
I was just gonna jump in looking at the time. We've got about a half hour before Rick needs to leave. I just wanted to, I guess, emphasize that we've sort of gone over the reasoning behind this change. Just for some historical perspective, the reason why we had council apply for this grant funding in the first place was to help grow council's capacity and standing. I think we've done that. I think we've achieved that goal. So I don't see this as being necessary for council to retain for that purpose. We have other grants we're managing. It will result in a reduction of the council budget, but I think we'd still be able to do the same work we've been doing. So I think just overall, the reasons why we went this route to begin with are no longer applicable. The situation has just changed, and so we are in a position where we can think more about what's better for the system as a whole, as opposed to trying to support council explicitly by getting it more agreements. So,
Michelle.
I was just going to say that the agency is also supportive of this shift for the same reasons that we've mentioned. And thank you, Claire, for that. And this agreement was held by VACD prior to shifting it to council. So this is saying kind of the reasons that we send it to council have been met, and we're just putting it back to VACD.
I'm realizing these are all very good reasons. We probably should write them down somewhere for when we present them to the district. So, Lena, if these can be reflected in the minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, to not just the White River District, but I think, overall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's complicated and it needs clarity, and we've gotten that here with our discussion, and good to have it out to the districts.
So Michelle.
Oh, just one final point on that. Like, I think that the districts forget that they have that they control VACD through VACD's board, right? Like, the supervisors of the districts through their representation on the VACD board are my boss. So from a district perspective, they have more direct control over VACD than they do council, because with council, they have to operate through the supervisory unions. Whereas with the districts, with the VACD board, every district gets an equal say and vote on what's happening with VACD.
So I think if I understand this, we're looking for a motion from the Finance Committee to essentially approve the Ag CWIP application strategy as outlined by Michelle and Emily and Claire regarding how we're intending to seek money from the Agency of Ag.
That's my hope. I don't think our policy requires it, but that is my hope, so that we can have something on paper that just shows that this has been considered and has conceptual approval. So yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll move to approve that. I'm actually starting to understand it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Richard, seconded by Bill. Any further discussion? Yeah, I mean, I think inherently, we've talked about the umbrella sort of shaping this, and there's an adjustment. But right, don't districts initially get to apply for the money, and then council sort of takes all those proposals and wraps it up into a super agreement? So it's not like the districts are being shut out or their individual proposals aren't being considered. So again, it's just a little bit of a rearrangement on the umbrella structure, but everybody still has an opportunity to get work done at the district level. Kate.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would rather, since an approval vote is not necessarily required by the committee, I would rather have the motion, I guess, rephrased to be a strategy to explore and pending additional conversations with the districts. I just knowing, sort of, I think that the position that White River is taken is why, and I'm not necessarily advocating for this. I'm just saying their position has been, that these more responsibility should be coming through council as opposed to VACD. So there would be an argument to have one contract and have it through council instead of VACD. So I just think it will be much better if that conversation happens sooner rather than later, I guess. That's what I think.
When's the application due, Michelle or Emily?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's due in January.
Okay.
But we are planning on having the districts give their applications to us, whatever that us entity is, by December 12th, which will give us time to review each individual application and meet with each district and make sure that the proposal that they've put forward is reasonable given the context that they're working on, et cetera. So that is pretty soon, especially given the holidays and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I guess I would say that since we don't necessarily have to approve it for to move forward with the idea, I would rather have the motion include or I guess say that it's supported as a potential strategy with, pending, more information going to the districts. And, this might be a minor thing. I don't know. I don't want something to blow up, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I would
Would-
just say that I don't want to build in any place where the DMs have to approve this, right? Like, because they
Okay,
they
yeah,
really don't. Like the VACD board would have to
Sure.
approve it, and that's where the district's voice comes in, is through their advocacy and representation on the VACD board. And so the VACD board will have to approve it.
sure.
So, I feel like we're muddying the structure when we say we want to say the council wants to say that they'll support something pending DM agreement. Ultimately the DMs work for the boards control VACD and the boards control council. So I just want to be clear about the governance and where the authority lies to make these decisions. And it is not with the district managers. While it's great to have their buy-in, and we want their buy-in and we want their support, because otherwise it's going to be difficult. Like the authority does not lie with them. The authority lies with the supervisors, who are their bosses and my boss.
Claire,
I guess I'd have two suggestions. One is a friendly amendment to the motion that would make the motion conceptual approval of this strategy contingent on bringing the matter to the attention of the DMs and talking it through with them. Or the second option I think we have is that we can revisit this issue at our next meeting in December, since that will still be before the application deadline. And since development of district applications is not contingent on deciding the strategy right now. So I think we could go either way. We could punt it to the next meeting, or we could have a friendly amendment.
Richard, would you be okay with that friendly amendment to your motion?
I'd be okay with that as opposed to going to the next meeting, because then I think we're getting too close to actual putting it in motion.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was, you said it better than I did, Claire. I wasn't saying that I thought that the DM should approve it. I just think it will rest better if the conversation happens before seeing this vote that may or may not be perceived as, oh, well, it's a done deal. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much it. I totally agree with your proposal, Claire. That's perfect.
And to be honest, we haven't wanted to bring it to the DMs until we had a conversation with council, because it does impact. So
Perfect.
It was sort of like we were in this catch-22.
Sure,
we
sure.
get to first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes, I like that, Claire. That's what I was trying to say.
So I could approve the motion with the amendment.
Okay.
And I still second.
Okay. Thank you, Richard and Bill. So, Lena or Claire or even Emily, does someone have, can you read back where the amended motion stands now? So we're all clear.
I will restate what I said before. So the motion is, the Finance Committee gives conceptual approval to the Ag CWIP application strategy as outlined by Michelle, Emily, and Claire, contingent on bringing the matter to the attention of the district managers and having a discussion with them about the strategy.
Perfect.
Thank you. Any other questions about that amended motion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Motion passes. And so we'll move along to the enhanced block grant update. Lena and Claire.
Yes, we have a couple things going on. I will pass it off to Lena to give an overview.
Yeah, sure. So the enhancement grant was awarded to NRCC in 2024, and it was for a little over $3 million. We have sub-awarded a little over 2 million at this point. And we just launched 2 new grant opportunities requesting applications to spend down the remaining $1 million. One is for $100,000 for project development, and the other is $820,000 for design and implementation projects.
I do.
So I expect you'll be seeing those that require approval from you come through in February or early March. I also wanted to fill you in that DEC has a new payment policy for this grant. In the past, we submitted invoices to DEC to be reimbursed, and sometimes there was a delay in paying those invoices, which caused cash flow problems for districts, especially when they had large contractor invoices. After lobbying for a change, DEC is now allowing us to bill up front. As soon as we award a project, we can invoice them for the full amount of the award. I recently submitted the first invoice under this new system, and so now we expect to have $2 million deposited to our account in the next few days to cover those projects that have been awarded to date. So this is going to allow us to pay districts in a more timely manner, which should make them both happy, and cash flow should be better, and contractors should also be happy with this new change.
Yeah,
If you have any questions, I can answer them.
that's great news.
Yes.
We do think this is great news, but it also raises some questions that I think we'll try to discuss with the Finance Committee at our next meeting. But just to put a plug in right now so you can think about it, with $2 million, and that's just with this one invoice, we're going to be sitting on close to $3 million in our checking account. I would recommend that we look into options for mechanisms to keep that money under FDIC coverage, as well as potential better investment strategies with that money. I'm not thinking about anything wild, but just something with a little bit of a higher rate of return. So I know we've talked about this with the committee in the past, about looking at new banking options, and particularly something that gets a higher rate, a higher interest rate. We're going to be circling back to that. It's now much more urgent with, or more important now that we will be sitting on a higher cash balance. So that's just a sort of a knock-on consequence of this change with DEC. I think overall it's a good thing, but I'm hoping for the next meeting we'll have some specific proposals about how to move forward with a higher balance.
Yeah, we have a money market account, which we do ship the money, and it's real easy to do, and higher interest rate, but it's not real complicated, like our investment account.
Richard,
How long do propose will be holding on to some of that money before it gets distributed?
That's a
We
good
could
question.
actually, yeah, we could actually be holding on to it as much as a year or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the hard limit would be the end of the parent agreement, unless it gets further amended. And so there, I think the outer limit for it would be what, 2027?
It's 2029 right now.
2029. It would be
Yeah.
sort of the outer limit for how long we'd be sitting on that, but we would be drawing it down periodically as invoices came in. I would best guess we'll be sitting on a balance. My best guess, and this is sort of off the cuff, I would think we would be sitting on a roughly $1.5 million balance on a for about, I don't know, 3 months to 6 months. We would be invoicing as new contracts are made, so we would be having more cash flow in. And then it would be drawn down slowly as we near the end of the grant. So I don't know, Lena, if those numbers sounded right to you, but it's hard to project what the drawdown rate will be.
Yeah, it is. I can't offer
Okay.
anything more.
Kate,
Yeah, I mean, you probably know this, Claire, but I'm sure there are limitations with how you can invest. I presume this is state money, and even if it's FDIC approved, it becomes the question of where does the interest go to? But I'm sure you'll follow up with that.
We will be. We're
Yeah.
not the only organization in this position. This also impacts Watersheds United Vermont, and they're looking into this as well. So we're sort of both going to be asking some questions of DEC on their expectations. But our understanding is that you know, it is allowable to have this money in an interest-bearing account. We already do that. It's just very low interest.
Yeah.
And then there is a further question, which is sort of an accounting question about whether interest generated by this money should be treated as restricted in the same way the initial funds are. That's typically the standard accounting practice, but we'll need to, so far to date, it hasn't been applicable for council because our bank fees our bank fees are higher than our interest income. So there has been no interest to allocate to restricted funding pools at this time. We may need to separate out this money to better account for any interest generated by it if it needs to be subject to restricted purposes. So we'll try to get those questions answered for the next meeting so we can talk through this a little bit more specifically. But yeah, that's on our radar.
Richard.
A point you just brought up in your conversation there is that they're charging us fees, and with that much money in the account, they shouldn't be charging us zip.
That's another question to revisit with our bank. Yes, absolutely.
Or we can move it.
Yeah.
We do have, Lena has done some work to look at alternate options. We do think we have at least one good alternate option we could bring forward as part of this discussion.
And I know when
Yeah.
I was select board of the town, we had certain funds that would, well, Lena knows this too, as being a town clerk at one time. We put aside certain funds because they weren't due for 6 months or so, and it could be an interest-bearing account.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for all your work on this. Having DEC be able to sort of see the light about the benefits and pragmatism about giving us an upfront payment amount. Yeah, so I don't want to scare them away by asking them the wrong question about all this money that we're suddenly going to have. So again, I think there's a way to try to do this and without scaring them away. Because again, things may have changed, but when I was working for groups that received grants, if the group had the wherewithal to put grant money into an interest-bearing account, then it was my understanding the interest that comes about as a result of that is money free and clear to the organization. You know, as long as the deliverables and everything else are being satisfied. So I just, you know, I don't want to make DEC nervous about, you know, suddenly this windfall and we're asking them about, you know, what can we do with all the interest? So anyway.
Well, we'll find out what we can on our own first. That'll be a first step. And then we also have an alternate route we can go, which is just asking AOA about grants more generally, Agency of Administration, about, you know, guidance. There may be guidance about this more generally than within DEC, but I don't think, I mean, this is something everybody's working through together. I don't think DEC would be scared off by these questions. Again, I think Watersheds United Vermont will be asking them the same thing, and maybe asking them just independently of us. So anyway, we will proceed with caution and just try to get as much information for you for the next meeting as possible.
Sometimes less said is better.
True.
Or asking for forgiveness sometimes can be better than asking for permission.
Right. Right.
I will try to find answers to whatever extent I can.
Well, the state does the same thing. And the government does the same thing, whether it's state, federal, or county level.
Yeah, I really don't think there's a question about whether or not we can generate interest off the money. I think that's pretty clear. It's more about how we, you know, do our accounting on the back end and you know, I don't think there's any big red flags here. It's just I would like some better guidance about how to manage it, basically. It's a large amount. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further, Lena or Claire, under the block grant? All right, other grants as needed? None? Okay. Administrative updates.
This is very quick. I think it's become clear that we need a little bit better supervisory union rep guidance. I've been fielding questions about how supervisory union reps get elected to their position, and then beyond that, you know, how the votes happen, you know, what the authority level is, and I think there's a separate sort of standing question about sort of what the responsibilities of the supervisory union rep are. We don't necessarily spell that out very clearly anywhere. I think it would probably be, my sense is it's probably useful to have a standalone, you know, supervisory union rep guidance document that people could refer to, particularly when they're newly elected to the position. So I'll be trying to work on that. I already have pulled together quite a bit of information. So the topics I'm planning to cover include how supervisory unions are structured, the election procedures from the supervisory union level to council, supervisory union election frequency, or I guess term limits. There is a provision that those votes should happen every 2 years. I'm not sure that they're happening every 2 years for every supervisory union, in part because these have not been contested positions. It's been actually kind of difficult to fill them. But I think that's worth spelling out for people, that this should be specifically revisited at least every 2 years, or when there are vacancies to be filled. And then just some information from statute about what the role of the supervisory union rep is. So facilitating communications between agencies, facilitating communications between districts, and then acting as the voting authority on behalf of council. So is there anything else that you think would be helpful to clarify or would like spelled out a little better?
Yeah, Claire, what you described sounds great. If there's a way in the narrative to mention also the idea about a supervisory union alternate,
Yes.
that would be the alternate to the representative to council.
Yes.
And the idea, I think, was just to have more eyes and ears on council-related goings on. And to the extent that the supervisory union rep was not able to vote or attend a meeting for whatever reason, then the alternate is there to carry the flag.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Okay.
yeah, I mean, Claire, I think I sent you a message that there's still some part of this, because a lot of this conversation has been going back and forth with me and some of our board members. But maybe you and I could talk about it after this.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's all right. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, Claire, once again, thank you for looking into this and just trying to clarify the situation regarding supervisory union reps to council, what they are supposed to be doing, how they get to become a rep, you know, all that sort of stuff. So,
Okay.
is that it?
That's it for that item.
Okay. So the next item I did attend the NASCA meeting, the National Association of State Conservation Agencies meeting that was held a few weeks ago down in Fort Worth. It was a 3-day meeting. The meeting itself is kind of a joint meeting between NASCA and the National Watershed Coalition. So there were concurrent sessions happening each day. So I wasn't able to attend all of the sessions, given the configuration of the meeting. But, there was, I was surprised to see as many people there that there were. Vermont and Connecticut were the only two states from New England. There was some states from the Northeast, considered Maine, New York, all the way down to West Virginia. So there was representation from the Northeast region, in addition to Connecticut and Vermont. But yeah, a lot of Midwestern states and some Western states. So the National Watershed Coalition is really a program focused on PL 83-566, which is a federal law that governs, by and large, flood control and dam construction, dam maintenance. So it is a program that we have limited experience here in Vermont many years ago. But by and large, the program has shifted from watershed treatment to flood control, and largely through the construction of dams. So, now that program is looking at all these dams that have been constructed and they need to be rehabbed. So, anyway, the NASCA part of the meeting that I attended, just heard a lot of discussion about NASCA and the board on policy, on communication, on NASCA's website that's been retooled. A little bit about state updates from the various states that were in attendance at the NASCA meeting. And then on the final day, the two meetings essentially came together for a joint meeting. And one of the topics that was presented for the entire group was a presentation from, I think it was Kentucky. And Kentucky, yeah, district relevancy. So many of the things that Kentucky talked about when it comes to district relevancy, I think, we've heard the same, if not similar, things about how to keep districts relevant, how to make them more visible, these sorts of things. So it was interesting to sort of think that many of the issues that we're facing here in Vermont are also being dealt with by other states and other places.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
I've been to those meetings, I think twice. It's actually a really good resource to connect with other states and hear what they're doing, because I think otherwise we tend to operate in isolation and end up reinventing the wheel, or not being aware of some of the opportunities that are out there, including the floodplain protection program that you mentioned, the PL 85-566, which I think will be probably coming up more in conversation potentially with the County and Regional Governance Study Committee, as one example of federal funding that Vermont has historically missed out on due to our state government structure. So it's actually a really cool program that I wish we could see more of here in the state. But it's that I think that is something that we should dig into more in the future. I'm glad they were talking about it at the meeting.
Yeah. So the other thing I did want to mention, that Claire had been a participant on the NASCA Policy Committee. And during the meeting, they kind of took a call for nominations for people to join in one of these committees, the policy committee being one of them. Claire is not able to continue her participation on the NASCA policy committee, largely because she's up to her eyeballs in dealing with stuff concerning districts and council here in Vermont. So there is an opening on the policy committee. Not that any of the committees have a set minimum number of participants. Any one of these committees are looking for additional members, but to the extent that Claire has decided to step away from the policy committee due to other demands, there is an opportunity for any one of us from Vermont to jump in and take her place. So Claire, go ahead.
This is a quick update. That position has been filled by Ian Hanley of New Hampshire. So they're no longer in need of somebody from the Northeast region to fill that requirement for their representation. But I do still plan to, be on the mailing list to keep tabs of what policies they're considering, because there is an opportunity for districts to weigh in. Historically, I've sent out emails when there were specific action items that were under consideration. A big thing they consider is the Farm Bill. That's been a little bit weird recently, just with all the government shutdowns and the delays and all of the non-action on the Farm Bill. But if the Farm Bill is back under consideration, that will be one big point of input that we can provide through the policy committee. The other points this past year, I actually found that this past year, the policy committee was not particularly, not that they weren't active, but their focus was on renewing existing policies and reviewing them for applicability, rather than creating new policies. So they pretty much just re-upped their existing policies around the value of locally led conservation, very generally, the value of floodplain protections. Hopefully, they operate on an annual cycle, with the annual meeting being the sort of kickoff of electing new people to those positions. With the new year, they'll put forth a new slate of policy proposal items. I can forward those out to everybody and still try to facilitate some back and forth with that work. But yeah, that's a little bit more about the policy committee. I unfortunately was not able to attend a lot of the meetings. I, like Rick said, have just been slammed. So I'm trying to do more just by email than by meetings I'm unfortunately not able to attend very often. So.
Kate.
Yeah, I'm just curious, who else from Vermont was, if anybody, was at the meeting?
Just me.
Just you, okay.
Our involvement with NASCA is relatively new. They do an annual meeting every year, and I can send that information out to the board generally if you're interested in participating. It's I don't know, I do find them helpful, and they're open to anybody. So I'll do a little bit better about forwarding that information next year.
I did look at the webpage because I was curious. I didn't know who they were, but I didn't. Just briefly, I looked at it, but
yeah, and so Vermont Natural Resource Conservation Council is a dues-paying member to NASCA. So I was there, sort of representing council.
And I would say beyond the meeting, one of the values of membership is just they're a resource. So they run a like a forum for all the state agency partners, where you can ask a question and people will answer. They have a backlog of resources, or not a backlog. They have a cache of resources for conservation districts about things like public official training, and other topics. So I think it's a valuable organization to be connected with. And yeah, I think I'll put more information about this in the supervisor union rep guidance I'll be developing.
All right. Hey, everybody, I got to dash off. I got to pick somebody up to carpool to the meeting. So I will talk to you again. Have a great Thanksgiving. but certainly don't terminate the meeting because of my jumping off.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Well, I think that's the end of our agenda items. We have other business if anybody, and time, if there's anybody who'd like to bring up any other business.
I'd
Yeah,
just
I have
like
a
to have some
question.
clarity.
Oh.
Who's on first?
Richard,
Okay.
go ahead.
Willie is now the chair of what?
Council.
Okay.
He's the board chair for council.
Okay, what's his last name again?
Nickerson,
Nickerson.
Nickerson. And he's from Caledonia County.
Oh, he's chair of council and he's from Caledonia.
Yes.
Okay.
I will send out a revised board roster with the new year. That's when his term will start.
And another thing I wanted to bring up, and Michelle was attending, we had a conference meeting with our legislators. It was Franklin County, Lamoille County, and Grand Isle County. And I guess Michelle will probably clarify it better than me. It was kind of updating some of our legislators on who we are, what we need, and what we're doing. And I came away from the meeting thinking there was no, I didn't hear any negativity. I didn't see any big positivity, but I could see there's beginning to possibly understand. And maybe Michelle can clarify what I saw.
Claire was there as well, but I thought that we had really strong statements of support from a couple of key legislators. Bob Norris, Senator Norris, actually oversees the agriculture budget on the Senate Appropriations Committee, and he expressed really strong support for districts.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that was in part because we very wisely invited him to see the dam removal in Berkshire this year, and he was very impressed with that. And he talks a lot to farmers, and you've done a lot of personal outreach to him, Richard. So that was very helpful. And Representative Gregoire from Fairfield, who is the vice chair of House Institutions, which oversees the Capitol bill, also expressed strong support for the district work. So I think it was definitely a good meeting, and Representative Hengo, who is one of the co-chairs of the Rural Caucus, was also there. So we had good turnout from people in positions that impact our funding, which was really nice.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, my question. We just had an incident 2 weeks ago where our debit card was compromised. And we're going to need to do something about it. I just wondered, we're not real comfortable with having our district manager get a credit card in the district name, but tied to her financial information.
Mm-mm.
We don't want to go that route at all.
Right.
Do any of the other districts have credit cards, and how do they handle it?
Well, I
We do.
recommended to her that she use a company called Ramp, which we are using. You can get a free credit card. It actually has 1.5% cash back. And it is tied to the organization's financials and not to individuals' financials. So that's what VACD uses.
Yeah.
We did that on the recommendation of we have a consultant who's helping us with our books. We're making some changes to the way we do our accounting, and that consultant recommended Ramp. So that has worked well
We're
for
looking
us.
into that. So
Yeah. I strongly recommend it. It also brings some nice financial controls because you can set it up so that transactions get approved. So your treasurer could have access to approved purchases and transactions. So that makes it, which gives you, some nice transparency into the treasurer having access and approval authority.
it's good.
One thing I would say is that this is a common challenge for a lot of districts. We've been emailing with Kelly, just some of the same information, Bill, but a couple districts that I'm aware of do have credit cards, but they have tied it to personal financials, which
Yeah.
is not something I recommend. But
No.
the reason they've done it is because they've had difficulty with their banks or with other finance institutions in qualifying or for credit cards due to ambiguity about their organizational status. And so if anybody runs into that situation, I'm happy to provide a letter from council explaining to the bank what districts are, how they're set up in statute, all of that information. I think that that's worked in some cases, just to better communicate with financial institutions. So I'm just going to throw it out there that if you're trying to go a more traditional route and get a credit card through your bank, that just be like the district manager can be in contact with me, and I can try to troubleshoot any issues they're running into.
Yeah, we're just very concerned that with our debit card, it has access to our checking account.
Mhm.
And if that gets compromised, we can be wiped out in a matter of minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Better
I
on a credit
understand.
card. Especially for a lot of the recurring charges we have for subscriptions, like to, yeah, one of our newest one is the Quicken online. So I just
Yeah.
want to check, see what's going on with other people. So we'll proceed, I think, with the ramp that Michelle suggested.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, so I'm hoping that with your current debit card situation, that your bank is able to fix that to reverse any charges that were made fraudulently and all of that. I'm
Yeah,
hoping
yeah.
that that's the case.
Luckily, it was only $5, but I think it was they were testing to see if it went through.
Yeah.
And we've stopped it right away, and they're giving us a new debit card. She should have it by now, actually.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that. That's all I
We
have.
also ran into, we leased a truck, our district did, and it took quite a bit of info to the company before they accepted it. We were there for a couple days,
Oh,
just to give you a heads up. But now that our district has leased a vehicle, it will be much easier from then on. But with this first one, they wanted a credible person that had an account with them to back it.
we haven't
Yeah,
gotten to that point yet.
it's an ongoing issue. Every district that's tried to purchase a vehicle has run into issues just in, again, proving their organizational status and credit worthiness. So if people run into those issues, I'm happy to help try to troubleshoot one-on-one, either by providing information or an official letter from council explaining what districts are. Yeah, I'm hoping that some of the work we're doing with the Agency of Administration will help with this issue in the future. One issue that's been and I need to circle back to this. There's a municipal equipment loan fund through the state of Vermont. I'm trying to see if districts are eligible for that, because if so, districts could get loans through the state to purchase equipment rather than through private financing. And that might be a better route to go. The question right now is that the treasurer's office is asking me, or trying to prove that districts are municipalities, and also trying to get a better sense of their financials. So now that the FY25 has closed out and I'm getting district financial reporting, I'll be needing to provide some of that information to the treasurer's office for a determination. So once I have that determination, I can send that information out, but I'm hoping that'll be a better option for vehicle and equipment purchase in the future.
But also, if we could tie into the state system and purchase through their system.
Districts can purchase through the system. And I probably need to, this would probably be a good topic to revisit maybe with council itself, but there is a purchasing function through buildings and general services through the state of Vermont, and districts are able to use all of their purchasing lists, their negotiated rates, all of that. I don't know that many people have tried to go that route. I honestly think a lot of people forget that that's an option, so I should send that out again, because that is an option, including for vehicles, I believe. So again, I guess maybe I'm just gonna make a blanket statement that if people are trying to do big purchases or have capital item questions, I'm happy to help. Like, you can always contact me, because I know a lot of this information. I'm trying to make it so it doesn't just live in my head, but I am sort of happy to help connect the dots, with ways I think that might make it easier for districts.
Can a little bulletin be put out there about what Michelle mentioned about, is it ramp, Michelle? Credit card to the districts? We may have it, I'm not sure. But I know there's instances like Bill is talking about that we've had to put it into personal, and that's not good.
Any other, yeah, we're happy to send out information, discuss that with district managers. Any other questions or topics? Other business?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
I would accept that. Motion and a second, and Kate, it looks like you're trying to come off mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where the buttons are.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Claire, if we want to have that discussion, if I'm happy to have it with I'm not trying to exclude anybody, but if somebody wants to get the same clarification that I'm interested in, we can all participate. I was assuming that nobody else would really want to, but
Oh,
I don't want to close
well,
it to
sure.
everybody.
So how about we can officially adjourn the meeting, and then maybe we can just
Sure.
stay on and chat, and anybody else
That's
wants
fine.
to join us can. So
Perfect.
we have a
Yeah.
motion and a second to adjourn.
In favor, aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yeah,
See
same
you
to you.
guys.